hello there everyone, welcome back to Change Rapid TV, welcome to the Roundup. A lot of people have been, well actually no, that I'm going to rephrase this. Some people have contacted me about the new intro music saying it's not good enough. I referenced Bobby Firmino. I said, listen, when Bobby Firmino first joined the club, he was a little bit rusty. You had to take a little bit of time to get used to him. Like, I remember, James, lads, why is Bobby Firmino play? Why is Brendan Rodgers brought in this Bobby Firmino, lad? And then even when Jurgen came in, it took a minute, but then it became beautiful, it became legendary, and you've just got to ask loads of beautiful questions about the history of Firmino, the same way that, due to poor copyrighted music being done in the past, we had to change strikers, let's say, and this is the Suarez replacement, you know what I mean? So just bear with me, we'll get there in time. I'm here to talk about Mason Mount to Manchester United. I'm here to talk about the rumours of one player going to certain clubs this summer. It's not just going to be Liverpool business. There's already a McAllister video. Go and check that out if you haven't already. This one is about a player who was linked to us, and I am actually very happy we opted for McAllister over Mason Mount. Now, here's a very interesting thing. News broke reportedly that Manchester United wanted McAllister. They wanted McAllister. Now, there's no concrete things, there's no bids that were made, but according to a couple of reliable sources linked to Liverpool, then United wanted to sign McAllister. Now listen, here's the thing about that. As much as I believe it could be possible, because now they're heavily linked with Mason Mount, and stylistically they are two different players, but they play in similar positions. The offensive 8, or they're going to play in the number 10. So because of this, that was the type of profile that Manchester United were clearly looking to identify. So it could be journalists just putting 2 and 2 together and just trying to say we took another player from United, or it could be a bit of truth. And now Mason Mount is plan B. If Mason Mount is plan B for Man United, which there's no guarantee he is, but if he is, then that means we got a player that was preferred for Man United. It also means that if Mason Mount is plan B, what does that mean? And here's where we go into the conversation. I said earlier about the English culture, and here's why I don't think this is going to be a good sign for United. I think for us it could have worked out. For United, there's a couple of reasons. The first reason, I don't see the benefit of having both a Bruno Fernandes and a Mason Mount in midfield. I don't see where stylistically that improves the defensive solidity that you've built this season with the Casemiros and the Lisandro Martinez. I don't see how that improves your team. Now, unless you were going to revert to a back 5 or whatever have you, which I don't see United doing, I just don't see how that makes too much sense. Now, if you were going to use one as a squad option, then that's slightly different, but with the wages that you're going to be getting from me, or you're going to be paying Mason Mount, I don't see why that's beneficial to have him on the bench. And then if he comes in and does better than Bruno, I still don't think why it's beneficial to have Bruno on the bench, because again, he's one of your top players. It's good that your top players are starting, otherwise why are you paying them the top contract? So I asked that question about, he's not only going to come in and demand high wages because he's a Champions League winner, he's Premier League proven and all that malarkey. Also, he's English, so he's got that tax on there as well. But then he's also in a midfield with Casemiro, granted, who's a year older. And listen, as great, and I am using the word great, not good, not okay, great defensive midfielder, as great as he is, he's still susceptible to mistakes. And if you haven't got anyone to cover Casemiro, because Bruno can't cover Casemiro, and I'll tell you now, Mason Mount can't cover Casemiro, he could never cover Kante. So I'm thinking to myself, how's this going to work on a basis of getting United from what is now third to first, and also in a season where Liverpool dropped off, Chelsea is surely only going to get better. If that's the case, there's more competition next season. United need to evolve as well. Does Mason Mount evolve Man United in a starting standpoint? Because you're not bringing him in to be on the bench. Because why are you going to pay another English player 300k like what you've done with Sancho to pay on the bench and send him on holidays because he's got mental health problems? Players can go through a spell where they're not as committed. They've got a lot of distractions, and the world's tough, mate. I have a lot of sympathy for players and all these people. But if you know someone is more susceptible to being mentally damaged, the same way Mason Mount, kind of looks like everything's got to him in recent months, is he the type of player who only when the team's doing well, when he's the young lad who could be the next Frankie Lampard, and the young lad from Chelsea has just won, well, he's from Portsmouth, but the young lad through our academy has just won a Champions League. When it's that spell, it's good, but what about when it goes bad? And we know at Manchester United, it has a tendency to go bad. That's why you've actually got to give credit to the likes of Bruno, because he can still drag you out of bad moments in the littler games. I think he just struggles in the big games, Bruno. But Mason Mount, what happens when he drops? Or let's say the team drops, and if the team drops, is Mason Mount the guy to carry you out of a bad situation? I don't think he is. And I believe that's why you need to look for a higher profile calibre. The one thing, and I'll admit this is a Liverpool fan, Man United can just sign certain players, Liverpool cannot sign. There's multiple reasons: wages, location, loads of things to why they can sign more players than what we can. And when I say, more specific type of players, they can sign Ronaldo. We can't sign Ronaldo. Even when he was at Juventus, we could have never signed Ronaldo because we're not going to pay him $500,000 a week. If Haaland didn't have trophy incentives, best believe he'd probably join Man United because they can offer the next most amount of money. I'm trying to say that we can't get the best in class. They can get the best in class in terms of name value. We've got to try and find the gems. McAllister is more of a gem. Mason Mount is more of a guy with name value. This is why I think if United are falling into the... Because here's the thing with Ten Hag. At Ajax, he was forced to find gems. He was forced to maximise the academy. And he was at a club that could pick into other teams from the Netherlands. Therefore, based on structure, Ajax were far superior to all the other teams. United, based on structure, are not the most superior team in the country. In fact, they fell behind quite a bit. And one thing that they've built their model off is getting these big, significant name signings. So this isn't me hating on Manchester United. I'm actually proposing a question to United fans to correct me if you can. Is Mason Mount the guy that Ten Hag should be adding into his team? And is Ten Hag only getting Mason Mount because they're not looking in the right category of player? They're looking in the category of big names and high profile and guys who have achieved things, but they're not looking into the profile of the guys who have just achieved or maybe could go on to achieve things, the next guy in class, the next guy to step up to the plate with a winning mentality. So I asked those two questions. Is it just because United are looking in this field here? So you've got the fields of potential superstars, you've got the fields of big names here. You're looking into this field, you're neglecting this one. Is that because United have got the resources? And if that is the case, what if you've just missed out on a really, really good gem? The same gem like Lisandro Martinez, who Ten Hag identified, or Anthony identified at Ajax while Ten Hag was there. These are the questions that I'm proposing to you, only because I want to know, not because I'm trying to hate. That's all it is. Because I'm just a little bit confused if it is that player. And then the second question I wanted to ask, is Mason Mount the guy to take you from third to second or from third to first? I don't know if he is. Now, I said this about McAllister. McAllister is a good signing if you get a couple of other players around. And McAllister by himself is not a good signing for Liverpool. We need to get more reinforcements in that midfield. The same applies for United. If United get Mason Mount and then they get just an out there shout, Kimmich, I don't know, just something random, Jude Bellingham, anyone, if you get someone out, then that is now a good signing. But then I don't see that happening because you've got a regular starter in Bruno. You've got now a new guy, potentially. I'm acting like the transfer is done, but I'm just saying if it happens because it's looking likely. Then you've got another guy coming in who's going to be on big wages, who's very similar to Bruno in many senses. Probably not as good as Bruno as well. In my opinion, I don't think he's as good as Bruno. I think they're very similar. But Bruno's got the increase on volume, so I don't understand why that benefits the structure or the system or anything like this. But I do believe in a specific system, Mason Mount, you can find a tune out of. I think he would have suited Liverpool because of the fact that we haven't got that already Bruno Fernandes type player. We haven't got a midfielder who is creating chances. Oxlade was supposed to be that, he never ended up being that. Keita was supposed to be that, he never ended up being it. So we never had that guy in the midfield. That's why McAllister's now coming to us. That's why we was linked with Mason Mount. So it's not a case of now we're not linked with him, I'm hating on him. I actually believe he'd suit our system that bit more. But I'm glad we got McAllister because I just think he's a better footballer and can still adhere to the system. Also, I believe he's got a higher ceiling. Mason Mount, I think his ceiling's limited. I actually think we've probably seen the best of Mason Mount. Not that he's finished, I'm just saying I don't think we see any better in the future. And that's why I am confused by this transfer specifically. And we know that Ten Hag isn't the sole one in control. There's still a board of directing team at Manchester United, which I still think has had a few ups and downs. I think even last summer, Anthony hasn't really set off to the brightest of starts. Malassi has been in and out of the team. The only one you can sit there and say with confidence that's done really well is Martinez and Casemiro. Everyone else is up for question. And then you've also got to ask the price tag of Mason Mount because you'd suggest United need a striker. So you're going to go and spend X amount on Mason Mount. Then you're going to go and need to get a striker because Rashford's been inconsistent this season. He's got a lot of goals in a period, but Then there's been a period where he hasn't. I think there was a stage where he had like 17 games and 2 goals or something crazy. That's not good enough if you want to be competing for league titles. Therefore, you need another option. Martial being out once in every 3 games like Thiago, it's not good enough, because you need that player to be an option for the system. You need them to be available. Availability is your greatest ability, and players like Martial are never available. Therefore, his value is this, and if his value is this, you need to let him go, and if you need to let him go, you need to bring in a new player. Who's that going to be? Anyway, guys, there's actually one more thing I want to talk about. Is the breakdown. So I am somebody who is come on every single platform, and I feel like I try and give the most realistic point of view. So when an opposition fan says Liverpool is going to come back, what is your substance to back that up? And then I'll say the same to a Liverpool fan or whatever have you. I feel like I try and be as realistic as humanly possible, but when I be realistic, people think that I'm taking it to a point where that means you can take the piss out of my team, and you can. You are in your commandments and your rights to be able to say whatever you want within a football manner. I feel like football is one of the places where you can at least say anything that you want, in a sense of, if you don't like a player, you can say you don't like them. If you do like a player, you can say that you absolutely adore them. But then you'll have to get fact-checked, or then you have to get basically questions on your football and knowledge, because if you say someone's the best in the world, they're not the best in the world, then you're a bit ludicrous. That's why I had to be precise when I said Mane was the best in the world. You've got to be selective on these things, you know what I mean? But the point that I'm making is I've had a lot of... I have to address United fans mainly, because they're the big part, and they're the guys who are back this season. And the reason why I have to address these things is because, you know, going into the season or throughout the season, they were obviously the better team, no doubt. I mean, they were competing in competitions, multiple fronts. You know, they were doing good in the league, especially up until December. They really had a good spell. Defensively, they looked great. And Ten Hag has made them a much better team. Let's call a spade a spade. But then in the same breath, I saw certain fans mentioning a title race, a 3-horse race, and I saw certain fans talking about, you know, the best manager since Sir Alex Ferguson, which is absolutely ludicrous. But the reason why I bring up United fans is because it's those same United fans who ended up getting the same amount of trophies as Liverpool. And listen, I understand the League Cup is in some people's eyes more prestigious than a Community Shield, but to win the Community Shield, you need to win the FA Cup, something United couldn't do. You also needed to beat City, something United couldn't do. So we've done something this season United couldn't do, plus we beat you 7-0. I don't think the significance in the season is much better. And then when I get United fans laughing at me for us being in a competition that they've kept very warm over the past couple of years, I sit there and suggest, well, why are you having a go at us for being in the Europa League? Well, it's because it's the Europa League. And then in the next sentence, they'll say, well, how are you going to get big signings now? And then in the very next response that I have, I will say, well, a Europa League team has just signed a World Cup winner. A World Cup winner which your manager wanted. Now, this isn't Liverpool versus Manchester United. This is actually to talk about another point. The other point being, is Europa League really a detriment? I brought this topic up the other week. Is it really one of those things where we can't get big names? I don't think it means that at all. I actually believe, with or without Europa League, you can go and get whoever is necessary. I think you'd be surprised at how many footballers would be willing to sacrifice a year of Champions League football for a good wage and a good project. If you have a good project and you have good resources to offer this player and you give them incentives, they'll join your club. So this is what the point I wanted to bring up. We're in the Europa League. We're the Europa League team. We're the banter team. You see the memes where it's Liverpool, then a place in Kazakhstan where there's trains going through the pitch and stuff. And that's not ideal. And I'm not trying to condone finishing in Europa League. But if we can't end up signing the players that we want to sign, you can't use Europa League as an excuse, because I swear, didn't Ronaldo join Manchester? No, Ronaldo joined Manchester United as a Champions League team. But he was still there when they were also a Europa League team. And there's been some top-class players to have played for Europa League teams in the past. So I sit there and say, Casemiro, that was who I was thinking. Casemiro come to United and they were a Europa League team. There's other teams in the league, Chelsea, for instance. Look at all the players they signed in January. Them players knew Chelsea was not getting top 4. They knew, and if you didn't know, then you can't do maths. You clearly couldn't count the points. You know, they didn't have nowhere near even 40 points. So to expect them to end up bridging the gap between where they was and to top 4 by January to the end of the season was ludicrous. But yet they still joined Chelsea. So I'm just saying Champions League isn't the be-all and end-all. Therefore, there's no excuse if we can't get big names. And also, we've already started off the window before the window's even begun with a World Cup winner. And I think that speaks volumes to... We should expect big things from Liverpool this summer. In fact, I would suggest even bigger things than if we got Champions League football. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And that's why I wanted to bring all of that together. Because yes, Liverpool look like they're down in the dumps. And yes, being in the Europa League is very sad and it's not good. And it is slightly embarrassing. But the only thing I'll respond to that with is that it is a chance to rebuild, and opposition fans, and it's why I raised United fans, because now they're going to think that we're finished. But this is a big opportunity for Liverpool to combat that and say, not a chance, because we've got the resources, we've got the people, we've got the staff, and now we're getting the players. And the fans speak for themselves. So I think in that sense, Liverpool have got very easy solutions to find here. It's just finding them and applying them. If they apply them, then we'll be fine. If they don't apply them, then we're going to still stagnate, and it'll be a point where we will continue. Because here's the thing about United as well, and here's where I'm going to give them credit, and I'm using them as a reference because they're one of the biggest noises that we're going to hear in terms of everything. And you can't completely ignore your enemies. If your enemies are saying there's something wrong with your football club, if your enemies are literally giving you solutions, don't always shut it off just because they might be saying it in jest. Just because they might be saying you're in the Europa League, you're done. Don't just think they're being biased, even though they probably are, and they're probably trying to wind you up. There's also might be a little bit of truth behind what they're saying. And there's nothing to suggest that Liverpool might not end up going into obscurity where we are just competing for Europa League and we become kind of what United have been or what Tottenham have been. Arsenal have been before the season gone by. So I don't want Liverpool to go that way. And now that I'm seeing so many fans saying that could go that way, it's a little bit alarming. But when you identify as a Liverpool fan, the solutions are very easy. The Europa League isn't as bad as you think. We're still getting the Europa League funds. Plus, we can still get big players, as proven by McAllister. A World Cup winner, may I add again. So I'm just saying that because of all these factors and variables, Liverpool have a great chance to prove all these people wrong. The naysayers. You can't ignore the naysayers, but you can prove them wrong. That's the thing, you can't ignore them. The second you read a comment, you can't just move the comment out your head. It's there, you've took in that opinion. Now what are you going to do to combat the opinion? Someone calls you a loser. What are you going to do? You're going to go and win at something. Someone calls you fat, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the gym. You're going to get hard. Liverpool have got to get hard, basically. They've got to do with Kevin Hart and Will Smith, and they've got to start preparing for fights in Jug. And once we've done that, we are marvellous. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on everything that I've just talked about. And the main thing that I'm asking for your opinion on is just, first and foremost, do you think Liverpool's finished? And if you do you also think there's easy solutions? The only bit of doubt that seeps into my mind is, will FSG jump or find the right solutions? That's the only question. Anyway, let's leave it there. Love to you and your mothers, and I'll see you all in a bizzle. Peace, peace, peace.